So last week we did a show talking about the future of DC Comics and how after some layoffs at their higher up levels, and how after some new management was brought in from outside of the comic book division, and how after Jim Lee was told that he now needs to focus more on their other media ventures, as well as trying to argue that DC Comics needs to stick around so that they can keep making movies out of their properties. Yeah, it left a lot of people really concerned about the future of DC Comics. But after a week of fear and speculation, DC Comics came in here with the bold declaration that we're getting a new Batman movie. Ooh, look at that! Oh, look at that right there! Oh man, would you look at that? Don't look at that. Never look at that. Get that out here right now. No one wants to talk about you, DC Comics. We're trying to have a good time over here watching someone dressed as Batman punch people. That's all we actually want. I saw him punch a guy and I clapped. It made me happy. And ooh, look at that new Suicide Squad game. Oh, you get to kill an evil Superman. We've never had an evil Superman. Actually, we've had evil Superman many times, but never in a video game. Actually, we've had him evil twice in the video games, but not this year. We haven't had an evil Superman. Actually, there was that Red Sun anime movie. You know what? I'm thinking about this too hard. Let's just kill Superman. It's what DC Comics wants us to do. Oh man, this is exactly what we needed right now to make us forget all about what's going on at DC Comics. Yes, the DC FanDome event was a huge success, and there's a good reason why it was a huge success. Because it's literally what comic book companies should have been doing for a decade now. Folks, the DC FanDome event was last weekend, and despite the jokes I made in that opening skit, yeah, it was kind of great. Going into this event, I said it could either be amazing or a total flop, and I have to admit, they knocked it out of the park. Now, before this event, I said that DC Comics was in trouble, but DC in general, their movies, games, and shows, they were all fine. And this event showed that they weren't just fine, they were actually doing better than ever. The new Suicide Squad movie looks great. We're getting a sequel to Shazam, which is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. And the new Batman movie has a guy dressed as Batman in it punching people, which, let's be real, is kind of all that audiences want. So yes, DC's general entertainment division is doing great, and the FanDome event showed that they're actually ahead of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, when I say that they're ahead of the game, this isn't some Marvel versus DC thing. No, not at all. I'll be honest with you, I think the whole Marvel versus DC thing has blown up to a point where it's turned into a nearly cult level mentality where people are now more obsessed with bad-mouthing the quote-unquote competition rather than actually enjoying the thing that they like, and they now feel that they need to identify their fandom not by celebrating what it is, but by trashing everything else, and in the end, this results in turning more people away from their fandom than bringing people to it. But hey, that's not what today's show is about. No, when I say DC is ahead of the game, I'm not talking about Marvel, I'm talking about Comic-Con. Yes, this year, Comic-Con, like many major events, was canceled due to the ongoing pandemic affecting the world, but they attempted to take that experience and bring it online with Comic-Con at Home, an event that many described as bad. It was an underwhelming set of announcements with some pretty lackluster production value, and there's a reason why it failed to impress. Because Comic-Con has been behind the times for years now. Many of us just didn't realize it until this year when global events had to grab Comic-Con by the ear and drag them kicking and screaming into the 21st century. You see, Comic-Con is an industry that is run on exclusivity. Yes, you want to get a ticket to Comic-Con so you can go and see all the big announcements and interviews and be there when something amazing is announced. You want to be able to say, I was there in the crowd when this happened. This is the main thing that Comic-Con has used to promote themselves with over the past couple decades. And do you know why they promote this? Because that's kind of their only option. Yes, if you wanted to be there for these big events, for these major reveals, then you had to pay an obscene amount of money for a ticket and hotel reservation. Then your reward for all this money and travel time spent would be to spend more time standing in a line, so that way you could maybe get a seat way in the back where you might be able to see something. Yeah, literally every part of that sounds bad. But what if, hold on, hear me out. What if we took this really bad pitch and sold the bad stuff like it was a good thing? Like it was an honor to be a part of the bad stuff? What if we used the magic word
Exclusivity. Now, paying all this money just so you can stand in a line for the entire day, well now, that means you're special. It means you're better than all the people who didn't pay this money to stand in line all day. Spoiler alert, you are not, and standing in a long line all day is not fun. All restricting these big announcements and press shows to exclusive in-person only events does is prevent people around the world from being able to experience it.
I know what you might be thinking. Well, what else were we supposed to do? There isn't any other way to experience these panels. I've been talking about how comic book conventions need to change up their panels for a long time now, and I always get pushback from people in the comic book community saying, well, there isn't any other way to do this. It's the only way that you can experience a panel. And to those people out there, I would like to say, oh my God, comic book fans, you have to start paying attention to other fandoms out there. You have to start paying attention to how other people in the entertainment industry actually run their shows. Hi, these are video games. They figured out how to do this a decade ago.
Yes, E3, the Tokyo Game Show, and all the other big video game conferences where they show off all the big announcements of things to come, they realized a long time ago that putting on a show for live audiences was a good idea. But putting on that show live for the entire world was a much better idea. And do you know why? Because this is the entertainment industry. It's an industry that runs on hype, and what's bound to get people more excited? Everyone around the world all coming together at the same time to watch a reveal for a trailer in unison, or reading about it from an official press release the next day. Yeah, the video game community realized long ago the power of unified hype. They realized streaming their shows in real time was the way to go, but Comic-Con has stuck with handing that hype off to the Pony Express and just hoping that it arrives on time. In fact, if you want to get live updates from Comic-Con, you kind of only had two options. One is to hope that somebody managed to sneak a phone inside and is able to record and upload footage as it happens, which becomes harder and harder to do each year with security ever increasing, and even if they do manage to upload, you're just going to get the most bootleg of shot-leave recorded footage with inaudible dialogue and visuals that are one step below a snowstorm. I know some people are going to say that there's something charming about having to hunt down this bootleg footage before it gets taken down, but no, there isn't. You just think it's charming because it's the only thing you've ever known. Trust me, this is a bad method of hyping up your audience. This is a bad way to promote your product. This is a bad way to consume said product. Listening to someone mumble on a stage with the worst echo imaginable, only to think that you might have heard them say the word Batman, which is then immediately drowned out by a flurry of hands being shoved up in front of the camera, is terrible. And yet, somehow, that's better than what the other option is, which is to go to comic book websites and get text updates. Oh Lord, the text updates. For anyone who has been lucky enough to avoid this, it's essentially where a press member of a website updates a live blog as they try and describe to everyone out there what is happening at the show, which basically results in viewers trying to get excited for what's happening while waiting for lines of text to appear. I want to show you something. Here is a moment from Microsoft's press conference from last year's E3.
The feeling of being there, of walking the streets of the future, is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking. You're breathtaking.
Oh, I remember how fun and charming that was. Good times. Now let's try and imagine what it would be like to experience that memorable moment the way that comic book fans have to experience panel updates during Comic-Con.
Keanu Reeves praises what it feels like to walk around in the game. Hold on. Someone in the audience yells out, "You're breathtaking." Hold on. Oh, here it is. Keanu Reeves replies back, "You're breathtaking." Oh, that's nice.
Now, I will say I do know some people who have told me that they enjoy the live blog updates because they say that they enjoy being updated as events are happening. And yes, it is nice to be updated as the story is playing out. But oh, if only there was another way. If only there was some other way to experience these shows as they're happening and to get the updates live as it is playing out. Oh, right, there is streaming. Live stream your panels. Then everyone could see and experience exactly what was happening live all around the world while you, the comic company, is able to control how they experience it. It's a win-win for everyone. This is what comic book conventions have needed to do for years now, but they haven't. And why is that? Because
we've got to have money.
Yes, you see, Comic-Con is big business. After decades of telling people that exclusivity is a good thing, people have bought into it, and bought into it is the right word. Convincing people that you need something that nobody else can have has led to lots and lots of money for San Diego Comic-Con, as well as some of the other larger conventions out there. If suddenly everyone could be there live right from their living rooms, well, then it would be a big blow to these conventions. And this has convinced the comic companies themselves, as well as comic fans, to oppose live streaming panels. Comic companies oppose it because they think it would be bad for their business if they went against these tourism juggernauts. And fans oppose it because they think it means you want to kill Comic-Con? You want to get rid of comic book conventions? Everyone calm down, step back a sec, and let's actually examine this. Yes, I know that it might be tempting for comic book companies to stick to these exclusive panels because then it adds to the draw of these big conventions, which helps to ensure their success. But comic companies need to stop thinking about the success of San Diego Comic-Con and need to start focusing on their own success. And as I've said, the comic industry is like any other entertainment industry. It runs on hype. And if you were on Twitter last weekend, you saw the internet exploding with excitement for all these announcements. At one point, it felt like half the trending topics on Twitter were all related to the games and movies being shown off. Not because they were big, but because they were big and they were being delivered in a way that allowed everyone to share in them. Now, this brings me to one theme I saw popping up over and over during all this. I saw numerous people saying, "Ha, when is Marvel going to give us something like this? When was the last time Marvel had this much to show off?" Simple, last year at Comic-Con. Last year at Comic-Con, they showed off The Eternals, a new Thor film, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, What If, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and announced new projects from Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Blade. Now that is a lot of announcements, and the internet was indeed blown away by it. However, I remember when this was all being shown off last year, and while people were excited, the discussion around these reveals were certainly different from the discussion around the DC fandom reveals, where the discussion around the fandom reveals was more of, "Oh man, look at King Shark and Suicide Squad. Wow, that new Batman game looks amazing. The interview with the director of the new Batman film hit all the right buttons for me. Oh man, look at King Shark again. Finally, we get something on Black Adam. Sinbad is in Shazam." Yes, the conversation around fandom was people celebrating what was happening. The conversation last year at Marvel's Super Huge panel, the one that wasn't streamed for the public because they wanted it to be exclusive, was, hold on, I'm hearing that the Eternals are there. The cast of the Eternals is in the room. Is this true? Has anyone actually heard if this is true or not? The Mandarin is going to be in Shang-Chi. I heard someone say that he'll be in Shang-Chi. Do we have confirmation on this yet? I'm hearing that Jane Foster will be in the new Thor film. Does anyone have eyes on Natalie Portman right now?
So with the DC fandom event, people were excited for the things that were being announced. But with the Marvel panel from last year, even though they announced a lot of things, people were mostly just running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to confirm whether or not what they just heard was real. Do you see how one of those is going to get people way more hyped than the other? And when it comes to the entertainment industry, hype often translates directly into sales figures. So for you, the big massive companies out there, this is a much smarter option. I know some people might be saying, well, how can you guarantee that those sales figures are going to be there? How can you guarantee that that level of hype is going to stick around from the reveal all the way up to the release? That is true. That level of hype can always drop. Whenever you make a big reveal far ahead of the release date, you always run that risk of people losing interest between those two dates. However, when you stream these big events, people are far more likely to hold on to that hype, because they'll have that experience of being there, live, when it's announced. So that feeling is going to stick with them far more than just hearing about secondhand on Twitter or through some press release. But also, sometimes, when you stream these big events, the internet will actually come together to help guarantee that that hype sticks around. Wonder what I'm talking about? Listen, you're all on YouTube. Do me a favor real quick. Go to that search bar up there and type in Smash Reveal Reaction. Warning, the montage you're about to see is really loud.
Treasure of all.
What's happening? Oh my God! Banjo! Banjo!
There they are.
It happened! Let's go!
Oh my God! I won!
Is this for real?
Yeah, they did it! I won! Oh my God!
You did this already. Oh, is it Dixie? Oh shoot! Oh! Oh shoot! Oh shoot! Oh my God! Chill the fuck out, Sakurai! Oh my God! No fucking way! No fucking way! Dude! Dude! How the shit is this real?
Yeah, when video games do their big reveals, they tend to let people stream alongside for live reactions, or let them upload their live reactions onto YouTube. And you know something? These videos do incredibly well. And why is that? Because one of the reasons why people love going to these panels or to these big conventions is for the feeling of community. They love to be around people who are excited for these things that they are also excited for. In fact, many times when you're in a crowd that's showing enough of a certain emotion, it can sway you and enhance your own feelings. I mean, heck, that's why sitcoms used to put laugh tracks in them. You hear enough people laughing and cheering, it makes you happy as well. And when we see people make reaction videos to things where they're excited at the reveal and we were also excited by that reveal, many times we will return to those reaction videos to try and give us that shot of adrenaline and dopamine that we got when we first saw that reveal. This is just science at this point. So not only do the big streams generate hype at the reveal, it guarantees continuous hype, and hype equals sales. But honestly, the movies and the video games, they don't need that hype. They'll be fine even if they don't go towards the live streaming method. But what about the comics? What about the industry that could use a boost? They're the ones that need this the most. All comic book panels at conventions from this point on need to be streamed. This is the future of comic book panels. Again, comic book crowds, I come to you from the world outside yours, from the land of video games, and I can tell you this stuff works. Please, I am handing this over to you on a silver platter. All you need to do is get some basic training with OBS Studio and a Twitch account, and you're golden. Trust me, you will get way more positive reactions for your new Batman book if you have a big, well-polished live stream reveal of it, rather than, well, you know.
Okay. Okay. Okay, it says that DC has a new book on the way. Oh, it's a new Batman book. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. There's 3 dots here down at the bottom. I think that means that they're still typing. Oh, it's Batman Beyond. Oh! Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's a cool thing.
And next month, DC FanDome will be returning for part 2, a part that focuses more on their comics. So I'm hoping that all of you out there who were losing your minds over 10 seconds of Robert Pattinson beating someone half to death are going to tune in again, and you better bring that hype train with you. You need to show the comic book world this is how things should be done. The days of exclusivity being a selling point are kind of over. Which brings me to the other thing that people worry about. People worry that if these panels stop being exclusive, if they're no longer something that only the people that paid to show up and stand in line for can see, then these conventions will go away. And hey, I won't lie, San Diego Comic-Con would be hit hard by this. But every other convention would be fine. Real talk, only about 5 or 6 conventions in America each year actually have big reveals that people actually look forward to. Do you know how many comic book conventions are held each year? Way more than 5 or 6. And even then, San Diego Comic-Con is really the only one that focuses on these big reveals as being a selling point. Every other convention out there focuses on things like the shopping, the cosplays, the artist alley, and just the environment of being among people who love and care about the same stuff that you do, and all of that would remain. None of that would be affected. In fact, in all honesty, it would kind of be even better. How many times have you gone to a convention and thought, okay, I want to hit up all this stuff. I want to do this, this, and this. Oh, but I also want to see this one show, and that show is a big deal, so I kind of need to show up 2 hours ahead of time so that I can see it, and that means that I can't do any of these other things I want to do. Guess what? If these cons start streaming these panels, you and all your friends can just pull out your phones when they start, and you can all see it while chilling in the convention food court, and you won't have to waste 2 hours doing nothing but sitting on a dirty floor and hoping that you got there early enough to get in. You can go and see all the other things that you wanted to, and you'll be fine. And I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, if Marvel and DC realize that they can just stream direct press conferences to the people, why would they even need to wait for a comic book convention? Why would they even need to have panels in the first place? And yes, I will admit this entire time I've been pointing over towards the video game community and saying, hey, it works for them. But it is true that a lot of video game companies have started to look at these big conventions like E3 and say, yeah, we don't really need that. We can kind of just hold our own show whenever we want it. So I understand people saying what would happen if Marvel or DC did that. But the comic book community is a far more personal community. It's a community that is far more about the actual human connection, so I don't see that happening. Marvel and DC would absolutely still hold these panels. You would just now be able to enjoy it if you couldn't be there in person. And you might think, oh, but these panels are really the only place where I can get to see these creators. Have you ever been to Artist Alley? Probably not, because you've had to spend all your time waiting in line for panels. I have gotten much better experiences talking to creators, had far better conversations with people I really admire in Artist Alley than I ever did at any panel. That experience will still survive if we start streaming panels. The only complaint I can see people having that I don't have a direct counter to is that if we start streaming these panels, then they won't be exclusive. Then I won't have that special experience of being the one and only person to see it. And to that, all I can really say is, I don't care. Something is not special because only you saw it. Something isn't better because other people can't have it. That's not the definition of good, that's the definition of greed. So comic book companies, listen, I know conventions are still shut down for the time being, and they're going to continue to be shut down for a while now, but this is one of the only times this year where everything being shut down is actually going to be a good thing, because it means that we all have time to regroup, replan, and restructure. When conventions come back, I want to see every comic book panel streaming live on Twitch, on YouTube, on whatever other platform springs up between now and then. This is the future of comic panels. Stop trying to fight it.
But that's it. Those are our thoughts on DC FanDome. Not so much on what was revealed, but more about how it was revealed and how, real talk, we should have been doing this a long time ago. I know, as I said, there are people out there who are going to worry that panels are going to dry up because of this, but they will not. It just means that now people at home who can't go to these conventions will get to experience these panels. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. So sometimes when something's a win-win, shouldn't we do it? Shouldn't we all just do it? But yeah, that's it for me, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm going to end today's show the same way that I ended last week's show. I have decided that I want to start promoting some more indie books out there. I mentioned last week that it'd be a really smart idea if people in the comic book industry right now try to get more people reading indie books. Last week, I promoted the Kickstarter for the new series Oz, which is going to be the story of an Iraqi war vet who has returned home, and now they are sort of going through the Wizard of Oz story as sort of a big metaphor for everything that they experience. It sounds really deep. It sounds really creative. It is from the creator of Spencer and Locke. I've talked many times about how good Spencer and Locke is, and how that book is a giant deconstruction of Calvin and Hobbes, and they did it really well, and there's going to be a giant deconstruction of the Wizard of Oz, so I know that this writer is capable of doing that, so I will leave, once again, a link to that down below. But as I said, I promoted that one last week. I will be promoting this week the new book from Jason Inman. It is Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. This is the second volume of Jupiter Jet. The first book was, I believe, nominated for a Ringo Award. It was very well received. I remember that it actually came out back when I was still working at the comic book shop, and I remember reading it there, and it was very good. And I remember it actually being a great book for all ages. I always believe that you should promote more books out there that are good for all ages. So there you go. Plus also, Jason Inman, very good dude. He runs a comic book charity every single year that provides comics to the families of veterans out there who are away from home. A very noble thing to do with any of your old comics out there. He even runs a YouTube channel, so I'm sure that many of you actually know who he is already, and you don't need me to keep going on and tripping over my own words on this. But yes, I will also leave a link to where you can buy his newest book down below as well. But thank you guys very much for tuning in. You can always follow me around the internet on Twitter at Professor Thorgy. I'm also on Twitch at Professor Thorgy as well. It is incredibly hot in here, in case you can't tell, so I'm about to melt under these lights, so I'm gonna just go ahead and shut this show off now. Bye, everybody!